Hello and welcome to What Works X. We'll be going live in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, please do log on to menti.com and enter the code you see on your screen, preferably on a second device or by opening an additional browser page and going to menti.com. We'll be with you very shortly. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and Ramadan Kareem. Virtual welcome to you all, and welcome to What Works X for today. Wow, 9 weeks are done. We've finished 9 weeks of distance learning. Huge congratulations to each and every one of you, our teachers, our educators, our students, of course, and to all the wonderful parents who have turned into learning assistants over the last 9 weeks. Today we have an exciting session today for you all on assessments and how do we measure the progress that students are making in their learning through this period of distance learning. Today, as usual, we'd like to engage with you by inviting you to log on to menti.com. So if you have not done so already, please log on to menti.com and enter the code you see on your screen, 273615. We'll be using Menti quite a bit today, a little bit at the beginning, partway through the presentation, and towards the end for some of your feedback. So just for means of a little bit of background, let me rewind back to 2012 when a movement known as What Works began, and it would come to change the culture of education in Dubai. It was a series of events that was anchored in a strength-based approach and was focused on collaboration. What Works X, which is where we are at the moment, is the same concept. It's just the platform has changed. And with technology, we're hoping to even reach out to more people across Dubai with these sessions that are being delivered by our fantastic and awesome educators who are wanting to share what's working at their schools and help the education community thrive and support them through this journey. I'd like to start off by asking you a question. Let me just go there. So, if we rewind back to the first couple of weeks when we all started this journey of distance learning together, overall, how have you found the shift to distance learning? So I'll just give you a few moments there. And remember, don't think about yourself right now at the 9-week period, but especially in the first couple of weeks when suddenly schools were asked to deliver learning through online provision. So just really interesting to see how people have found the shift. It's definitely been a learning curve for all of us, but especially our educators in schools across Dubai. Huge transformation you've had to do for the way that you teach and the way that you engage with students. So I can imagine a few different emotions and journeys for a lot of people. So we've got the majority there kind of sitting on the fence. It wasn't easy and it wasn't difficult. A couple of people have found it very difficult. I know a lot of teachers that have just moved to Dubai and they were expecting to walk into classrooms, meet their students and have the support of their peers at the school. But they've gone straight on into distance learning without meeting their actual students. Actually, my son's student is one of those, and he's found this process quite a challenge. But a lot of you have used your strengths of bravery and love of learning and perseverance, and you've been able to really transform the way you teach and be able to deliver education to the many students in Dubai. So thank you so much for that. That's really interesting to see that most of you have found it easy to neutral, and some of you have found it difficult or very difficult. So keep up the good work, and huge heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you supporting our students in this very difficult time. So today's session is around assessing progress that students are making. This is the third part to this series. We've had 2 schools already present on the same topic. And today we have Zainab Ramal from Sharjah American International School, who has volunteered her time, her effort into putting together a presentation and sharing their journey with you on what they're doing and sharing their perspective, which, remember, is one perspective, and hopefully you'll be inspired and be able to take a few takeaways from today's session. So we'll start off with Zainab shortly, and she'll give this 20-minute presentation, and then we'll move on to a Q&A session straight after that will involve questions that you've previously submitted and possibly a few questions that you, our audience, will submit during the webinar. And you can do so by adding your questions to the Q&A chat feature to the right of your screen. You'll see a Q&A chat feature there. Please do feel free to add your questions there, submit them. We'd love to hear from you, as unfortunately your mics are muted, and that's because we have around 150 people joining us today. So, but please don't let that stop you from engaging in this session, and please do submit your questions in the Q&A feature. So right now I will pass on to my good friend Magnus, who will introduce our awesome speaker today. And let me just bring you up on screen, Magnus. And I'll be back at the end of the session to close. Thank you, Magnus. Over to you.
Thank you, Nada. Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's now my pleasure to introduce our presenter today, Zainab Ramal. She's the Assessment Coordinator and Head of Mathematics Department, and also a Senior Data Analyst at Sharjah American International School. Zainab has been kind enough to put together a presentation for us, which responds to the theme of assessing the progress students are making during distance learning. Now, assessment of student learning is, and I quote, the process of gathering and evaluating information on what students know, understand, and can do in order to make an informed decision about the next steps in their educational process, end quote. Learning assessment is a fundamental feedback mechanism in education, allowing for all stakeholders of the learning process to understand what is being learned and where learning resources need to be focused. Formative assessment can be administered in synchronous or asynchronous forms. In the asynchronous form, where the teacher and the student are working together at the same time via online platforms like Zoom, or as in this case, Microsoft Teams, as well as directly by phone, teachers can provide feedback to students in real time. In the asynchronous form, where students and teachers are separated by both space and time, online support tools can help teachers to provide feedback to students through questions, tasks, activities, and quizzes. In addition to checking in on academic learning, be sure to check in on students' well-being as well, and take overall distance learning and the overall distance learning experience, simple questions can prompt students to share their feedback. What is working, question mark? What's not working well, question mark? And what would you recommend, question mark? However, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to hand over the word to Zainab for her presentation. Over to you, Zainab.
Hi. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today in this session. Thank you for the introduction. And it's my pleasure to represent Sharjah American International School Dubai campus today for sharing the good practices that we have been implementing in our school during this very difficult time. Before I start, I would like to give a brief introduction about our school, like some key facts. We are a US curriculum school. We're both NIASC and advanced accredited. We have 3 languages taught, English, Arabic, and French. Our age range is 4 to 18 years old for our students. We have 47% of Emirati students of school population. Our school is 15 years old. We have 145 teachers, around 1,886 students, and around 1,100 families. So this is just a brief information about our school. I would like to share with you a very short video highlighting some of the practices that we have been implementing during our distance learning solution. And I will be elaborating on these practices after the video is over.
Yeah, could we try another one, Malik?
Hopeful.
Hopeful, excellent.
6. Okay, the and word, we said it means multiplication. In our example, the order is not important, so we are using combination.
It's gone everywhere. Okay, so that's why you need to make sure you have this.
Baking soda into the jar. Add and start in our freezer. After 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
The main characters are Mary, Colin, Mr. Kevin, and Dickon.
So for our distance learning solution, as a school, we have opted for Google Classroom. There were different options available.
Sorry, Zainab, do you mind just sharing your presentation again? Apologies.
Is it showing now?
Yes.
So, as a school, we have opted for Google Classroom. Sorry. And this is for many reasons. There has been there have been different platforms or learning management systems available, but our IT department have been using, or IT departments and some teachers in the school have been using Google Classroom before distance learning, and this made the transition easier. The support provided to the other teachers as well as for the students much easier, since we had some people who are more familiar with this, some students who are familiar with this, so we were all helping each other in the transitioning between from our traditional learning to distance learning. We have decided to go on live streaming via Hangouts Meet for all classes, core and non-core subjects. Initially for our KG, we did not have that in plan. We were working with Class Dojo as it was a tool that they have been using since the beginning of the academic year. But then we felt that the success that we have in upper elementary and middle and high school classes should be transferred down, because the students needed that live intervention. They needed those live sessions and to ensure their full engagement. We initially had a 6-week contingency plan, and this was what we were told. It's 4 weeks and then 6 weeks, and then it got extended till the end of the academic year. And this is when we have decided that we need to ensure that there is a full and well-balanced provision for academic and non-academic or activity-based subjects, including PE, art, music, drama, so that it helps the students and ensures their well-being. During this distance learning plan, we had initiated an extension to what we previously used in terms of our work scrutiny. We did want to ensure that the students are still receiving the feedback that they received during school. Sometimes this feedback varied from an option to another. In class, you would be able to access the students' notebooks immediately, but now we had to work with our Google Classroom. We set some clear expectations and strategies in terms of how to provide the students with constructive feedback. Again, we also implemented virtual display boards. I'm going to be talking about them in details due to the impact that they had on our students' learning. We had some virtual field trips, some activities done virtually, and most importantly, we maintained a balanced and comprehensive cycle of assessments, whether formative or summative. We made sure that we still have those assessments ready. Now, as you can see, this is just a screenshot of what we have in Google Classroom. It provides a very comprehensive yet simple to use. It's very I'll have to say, based on a personal experience, it's very user friendly. Our teachers became experts in no time. Like within 1 week, we have seen teachers able to access, able to upload, able to create assignments, make sure that the students are ready. It was very easy to implement, and as time goes, we kept on adding up to our learning journey and utilizing it in a very efficient way. When it comes to live streaming, the live streaming provided the students with the chance to see each other, to interact with each other, to see the teacher, to talk to, and of course this was with a well-structured way where students had certain expectations, certain class rules, virtual class rules, as in like you turn your mic off, you turn it on when the teacher asks you. But the fact that the students are seeing each other and interacting with each other made it an enjoyable experience for them, especially that they are locked down at home. They can't go out anywhere, so the opportunity that they are provided during the class made it easier. The fact that they are seeing their teacher and their lesson and getting that instant feedback helped them a lot. Now, since we are shifting to this distance learning, the question became, a crucial question came, which is assessments. How do we assess the students? How do we know what they are doing? How do we use the tools that are present in front of us? How do we share our expectations? And this is when we designed a contingency assessment policy. This contingency assessment policy was written to specify the exact actions that we need to take during the assessment, or during the assessment that has been done during distance learning. And since we have written such a policy, we needed to make sure that it's a very clear policy, because a clear assessment policy will definitely minimize any misunderstanding. So in this policy, we made sure that we are explaining all the procedures, and we have shared this policy with the teachers, with the students, with the parents. with clear expectations mentioned on the role of each one, the role of the teacher, the role of the parent, the role of the students. We made it very clear. We identified the mark distribution, and we made sure that we keep reflecting on this, as this duration is very unexpected and lots of updates are being added. We needed to make sure that we keep reflecting and we keep updating this document. And we are referring to this document later when we started implementing our assessments and we had some questions or concerns. We kept referring to this document as a tool and as an evidence of what we are planning to do. Now, when it comes to formative assessments, formatives are the most implemented measures, I'll say, during distance learning. And in some cases, it is much easier to reflect on the students' work and assess their understanding on a daily basis using distance learning than it was during the traditional learning. We have the instant, let's say, chat box responses. When you are asking the students something and you want a very quick response from them and a way to track back, so you can ask them, type it in the chat, please, type your answers in the chat. You can check, oh, for example, we did our mental math practice. It's like the first 2 minutes of the class and we need like a quick response. Can you please type your marks? Oh, you got an 8 out of 10. Oh, where did you miss? Which question was that? Oh, Rashid, this is a 10. Excellent. Well done. So this is a way that we can use actually as a formative measure. And even when you are asking a quick question or an answer to a problem and you are seeing the students' responses, you can tell that everyone is moving on the right path, or if they froze, no, you didn't get any response, let's say, you know that there's something wrong, you need to re-explain. Another way is like exit slips. And with that exit slip, like for example, here, we can see that the teacher has provided a very quick question for the students and asked them to check, and the students were able to reflect on that. The teacher can have an instant feedback when it comes to the students' understanding, and then she can decide whether she needs to reteach, you need to provide further explanation, or she needs to move on faster because everyone answered it quickly, and she needs to increase the level of challenge. There's also the classwork and homework upload. Like for example, here I'm seeing the work of a KG student. He wrote it on his notebook. He just uploaded, made sure that the teacher saw his work. The teacher provided like the reflection needed. Here we're talking about like high school students. They had this live document where they went like using Google Docs. They edited their document. They submitted their answers. The teacher gave their instant feedback. The documented feedback in distance learning, since it's saved for each student in his form, in his account, there's no chance like he might say, I lost my quiz, or I don't know where did I put it, or let's say, I'm not sure I have the correction. Everything is saved for them. So this is why we feel like when it comes to distance learning, the tools that we are using, the online tools and the online submission, made it much more organized for the students and for the teachers. So the teacher can access anything that she has done, and the student can access any comment he received, any update, any correction. So it's making it easier for both. Another tool that we have used as a school was the school Padlets. We always wanted, we were always reflective and proactive when it comes to students' well-being, and we felt that we wanted to a certain extent transfer some of the good features of a traditional classroom to the virtual world. And one of the very nice elements inside a class when you walk inside a traditional classroom is the students' displays. When you walk into that class and you look at all the displays, it adds up to the class. We tried to transfer this through class Padlets And this boosted the students' confidence and well-being. Students were very happy to share their work. They received comments from their friends. It provided even chances for collaborative work because they were working together to design their Padlet, to make their Padlet. And in this case, it's as if you ask the students to design their bulletin board. So overall, we have almost 750 Padlets created. So that means I'm saying I have almost 750 virtual bulletin board created with an average of, let's say, 10 Padlets per class. We have more than 500 reflection and input per class, students' input, teachers' reflection. So I can show you some examples here. For example, this is a grade 1 music class. The teacher displayed some of his students' work, and the students also uploaded some of their work, and their peers were reflecting on that. Here, for example, this is a moral education Padlet where each student contributed here in writing prayers under the theme, we are united against Corona. Another Padlet here created by grade 8 students. Rather than the teacher doing it, the students were doing their work, writing it. And it's not like it needs any resources that are very difficult. On a paper with colored pencils, just write your work. Here the students are talking about their understanding of the triangle sum theorem. So them contributing to that was very nice and it made them happy. The students in the PE Padlet were more than happy to share their practices or exercising during the PE class. They shared the videos, they videoed themselves, and they shared their workout plan with each other. In the art class, for example, one of the students asked her friends to reflect on a given sketch and provide some input when it comes to the technique used in writing it. So this way of collaboration, this way of engagement between students, this is students learning. This is you checking on their learning. This is them explaining and talking and discussing in a very child-friendly environment. Padlets are very safe. Teachers can filter comments. Nothing goes against the cyberbullying policy. So everything is checked and monitored to ensure that there's no cyberbullying happening whatsoever. So this safe atmosphere gave the students this freedom of expressing their thoughts, their ideas together in a collaborative manner. So this is quickly when it comes to formatives, as I mentioned, it's something that we are doing on daily basis. Whether it's a classwork, whether it's a homework, you're uploading, you're asking the students to write a file in Google Docs. You can ask a group of students to share their thoughts and ideas on a certain Google Doc, another group to share it on another Google Doc. So having that option ensures the collaboration between the students. You are checking on their learning, you are providing direct feedback, you are explaining for them where did they get it correct, what else they can do to improve. So there are clear expectations mentioned. Now, before we move to the summative assessment part, I would like to ask you a question. Nada's going to be posting it.
Yes, it's coming up. Just a moment.
Sure.
So there you go. It's back on Menti. Go ahead, Zainab.
So if you had to tell what's the most challenging aspect to remote assessment, is it providing individual feedback? Is it the genuine assessment of learning? Is it the internet connection issues? Or is it the sorry, I can see the increased workload for teachers, the student engagement and completion, or the others. I can see that everyone is going to the genuine assessment of learning. Most responses are heading there.
You may need to share your slides again, Zainab.
Yeah.
Yep, it's there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've seen that most of you were heading toward the fact that it's the genuine assessment that, or the results. Are they genuine? Are they real? Are they reliable? How can I ensure the integrity of these assessments? And especially that we all know that summative assessments data are the ones that are used to reflect on attainment and progress. We all had our, I'm not sure everyone had their actual inspection, but when it comes to the actual inspection, we all know that we are asked to focus on summative assessments and check the students' attainment and progress. And we want to generate a set of reliable data. So what can we do? How do we ensure our assessments reliability? I'm not gonna say that whatever I'm gonna mention today is the perfect plan, or this is the best way. We are trying. We have tried as much as possible to highlight some points that we have used in order to ensure the assessment integrity and reliability. For a start, we shifted from a mid-semester exam to a unit test. The fact that we were using unit tests enabled us to reflect directly on a smaller chunk of the subject, let's say. So rather than waiting for, let's say, 2-3 chapters covered in this mid-semester, I was able to cover them chapter by chapter. And in case there is any significant discrepancy, I'll be able to target or isolate it and know where did it exactly happen, and then reflect on it. We followed the same exam structure. We still aligned our exams, let's say, with the standards. So as you can see here, our standards are still aligned per question. It's still differentiated per DOK levels. And we did not ask students to print the exam. So when we had a summative assessment, we did not ask students to print, nor we used the screen. What we actually did, we uploaded the exams as a PDF files, and we asked the students to write their responses on a paper and then upload it. When we went with this approach, it helped us in another aspect, which I'm going to be covering soon. Apart from reducing or moving from a mid-semester to a unit test, we moved from 120 minutes to 60 minutes, reducing the time of the assessment in order to make it less stressful, especially with everything that the students are struggling with. We created a mock map tests that's to be done during the semester to make sure that the students are still having that developmental part of the map skills that are acquired by the map exam. So we mimic the map style questions, and it is a major component of our assessment structure. So since it's such, we ensured that we couldn't do the actual map exam due to technical problems or technical difficulties that would prohibit us from doing it. So we created sort of a mock map exam that is to be done via Google Forms. Now, when I discussed the fact that the students did not have to print the material, this was helping us in the remote proctoring procedure. The remote proctoring procedure, or the remote proctoring policy, was mentioned in the assessment policy. We shared clear expectations with the students, with the parents, with the teachers when it comes to remote proctoring. We wanted the student to be seated in a certain way where his camera is projected on his work and himself. We can hear him, we can ensure that no one is talking next to him, we can see his face, we can see his work. I think the image here clearly explains how the students were sitting. And we assigned some exam rules. So for example, if there's a connection problem, you are allowed to be disconnected for a certain period of time, after which we will consider the exam results as void, and then you'll have to sit for a reset. For example, when it comes to parents in the elementary phase, we understand that the students are very young to do their upload on their own. Maybe they would require the support of an adult in the room. So we allowed the presence of one adult as long as the mic is turned on. We can hear what they are saying, and then ensure that this is the genuine work of the students. And after all, we explained that to the parents before we started our assessment cycle, so that they are on board with us. We understand that parents in this program or in this part of learning became, especially in elementary, became teaching assistants. They were sitting next to their kids, they were re-explaining for their kids in case they needed further re-explanation. They were making sure that they are writing. So it's as if that every teacher had a shadow in every home, and that shadow was helping. And since they are helping, and since they are putting an effort, we don't want that effort to just go away. That's why we explained for them the importance of abiding by the procedures mentioned. And we explained as well the consequences of any violation. Since everything was documented in the contingency assessment policy, that gave us the right to take an action. And since this was shared from the very beginning, we were able to refer to it every time we had to communicate with the parents. Now, we took also into consideration the students of determination. We tried as much as possible to take into account the way they conduct the exam. Usually they are on pull-out basis. So even in the school, when they are in the physical school, they do not take the exam in the same exam environment or in the same exam room as their friends. So also with the virtual proctoring, when we are remotely proctoring all of these students, the students of determination were in a separate virtual room. This will ensure that we are able to provide them with a one-to-one support. They can hear us. So for example, students who have some reading difficulties, the teacher can be reading for them, ensuring that they know she can go step by step. She shares the screen, goes with them question by question, ensures their understanding, checks if they are able to upload, they have problem responding. And of course, this is done for a modified exam in the first place. So if we're talking about their exam, we're not talking about the same exam as their peers. As per their IEPs, the modification is happening. We have around like 48 students on IEPs, and we tried as much as possible to provide them with the one-to-one support they need in order to make sure that they are progressing, they are understanding. We don't want them to be treated unfairly just considering the circumstances. So we have our learning support teachers staying one-to-one in these virtual rooms, providing them with the needed support. And we even had the timing of their exam extended so that it matches with their IEPs and the requirement that they might need in order to ensure their success and progress. Following the exam, after we are done with the exam, we do understand that we cannot, and I think all educators would agree with me when I say so, we cannot control everything that is happening. But what we can do, we can analyze, we can reflect, and we can take an action. The fact that we can't control the exam room, since we're not there with every student at home, does not mean that we just give up. We tried. We tried to come up with a procedure that would enable us to monitor the discrepancies in a way that we base our work on facts rather than simple judgment. Because if I just gave an opinion without any fact, it's gonna seem very hard to convince others that this is why I need to do, or this is why I have decided so. So we are thankful that this happened as we were approaching the end of the academic year, because this has provided us with enough data on our students. So considering all their previous results, and since we are monitoring discrepancies in summative assessments, I went back, I looked at the averages of all the written work the student has done, and this is done individually. So for each student, not an average of a class, for every single student, we looked at the average of their previous work, and we looked at the standard deviation. So overall, what was his average in all of his written work? And by written work, I mean all of his previous quizzes, mid-semester, final, any written work that I know that this is a genuine work because it happened while we were in school. I looked at the standard deviation and I created something called a confidence interval, an interval that would enable me to know an expectation of a mark. Where can this student be? From which point to which point? And then accordingly, I can give a judgment whether there is a high discrepancy in the result or not. So for example, I'll just give a rough example. I have a student who has an average of 80 with a standard deviation of 10. That means he can be anywhere between 70 to 90. And considering that I will be able to So I will be able to flag the student. I will be able to identify that this student was above the standard deviation, and hence I might put a question mark. But you might ask, are we dealing with students purely on numbers, based on numbers? What about students who are actually doing much better during distance learning? I know for sure that some students, and the fact that they are now in an isolated environment where no one is interfering with them, where no one is annoying them, they are doing better. Does that mean that if the result is being flagged automatically, I'll have this student as, this is a non-authentic result, this is not reliable? The mathematical or the data analysis process is the first phase. And then after we flag based on data analysis, we refer the flagged results to the teacher, because the teacher is able to reflect more than someone just sitting behind a computer and looking at numbers. She knows the student, she knows what he's been doing during distance learning. Is he responding? Is he being very active? Did he present better quality of work during his classwork? He's uploading everything on time. He's asking, he's willing to participate. He has changed. Then in this case, the learning attitude is validated by the teacher to support that this is an authentic result. No, I believe that this student did get this because he has been trying much better, and previously the learning environment in the class did not help him, so that's why I will omit. I'll say no, it's okay. But then there are teachers that are helping there are students that have results that are with very high discrepancy in terms of their confidence interval, and the teacher believes that no, this isn't their work. Maybe someone helped them. Maybe during the 2-3 minutes of disconnection, they disconnected, they copied answers, they opened Google. We know that this happens, but at the same time, we will pause. We will not say, okay, he got a 20 and he used to get a 10, that's a 20 and that's it. No, we will reconsider the result. We will ask the student for a reassessment, but this reassessment will be done on one-to-one basis. So I will sit with the student in a live session. I might choose to ask orally rather than having him write his answers, and I need an instant explanation. Or I might refer to his work that he has submitted and ask him to explain the details. If he's able to validate his result, then okay, he did put an effort. But if he's not able to, then I will reconsider the mark. I can show you an example of a confidence interval here. So for example, this student had an average of an 87. And his confidence interval is saying that he has to be between 75 to 99 because his standard deviation was 12, but he got a 50. This is another case that we have highlighted. Students who did not adapt well to the distance learning testing atmosphere. Maybe it is a tough experience for them. So we did also flag these students. We did want to refer back to the teacher, back to the student, check what's happening. Is it because of the testing circumstances? Is it because, for example, there was a connection problem, he couldn't finish on time and he uploaded only 2 questions? So these are questions that we asked, and these are questions that are based on real numbers. There's no way he got a 50, he used to get better. Or for example, I have here students, their confidence interval here is between 14 to 37 and he got an 85. That's a big discrepancy. That's a high discrepancy. No one can tell me that this happened just like that unless there is a question mark here. Whether this question mark means he has been really working hard or he has been supported. Both are valid questions that I would have to ask. I would want to check. What will I do in this case? And for example, the student is a student who has been performing or he did achieve within his normal result. So the fact that we have initiated this detailed analysis enabled us to take an action. And when we are taking an action, we're taking an action based on facts, not a simple rough judgment. And when we looked at the results, we had we have a quick analysis for a certain one of the unit test results, and we were able to spot like 89% of the students were within their normal result. So mathematically speaking, they were within their confidence interval of plus minus standard deviation, which makes sense. That's really good. And we had 2% were absent, which we always see even in the physical classroom or physical examination. We have some students who were absent. We had only 2% who were underperforming. We looked back, we checked, some of them had actually connection problems, some of them couldn't upload their work on time. So we reconsidered their situation. And we had like around 7% overperforming with significant discrepancy, out of which we were able to isolate 3% that teachers themselves reported that they are okay, they have been working really well, and 4% we needed to reassess. And as a school, 4% is something that we can deal with. We can reassess, we can have our one-to-one intervention, we can have our one-to-one live sessions and interviewing for them. Now, when it comes to reflecting this procedure, or when it comes to sharing results with the parents, the first thing that we have considered as a school is our virtual teachers conference. So we did arrange for a virtual teachers conference, and parents booked online their sessions with the teachers, and they were able to join live sessions, live conferencing with the teachers. And actually they really liked it. They even asked if we can in future have all our PTC done virtually rather than physically, which I think no one would mind. We were able to share with them the progress of their kids. So we still printed our report cards for our mid-semester cycle of evaluation. We shared with the parents that we had some concerns about the results, the identification criteria that I explained. And we provided the documentation needed. So if it's based on numbers, we can show the numbers. And then when you show numbers and when you show reflection, some parents even said, oh, yeah, I thought like we can support them a little bit or something like that. And we explained for them, it's not only because we want a number or we want a value. It's something that we would use as educators to later on reflect on our planning. If all the students got a 20 and none of them understood the lesson, then what's the point? We want to make sure that they understood, and if there's something wrong with our explanation, we need to identify it so that we reflect on it. So that's why it is important in any atmosphere, whether or in any environment, whether it's a virtual environment or a physical environment. It's very important for us to identify authentic results so that we can reflect on, because our reflection goes beyond just printing a report card. It has to do with the curriculum, it has to do with the teaching, it has to do with the learning, it has to do with many things. Finally, for our students, since we are American-based and we have credits for high school students, we wanted to ensure that we also carry on with our credit recovery program. So we utilize the distance learning as well to ensure that the graduates fulfill their credit requirements and earn the missed credits. So we have started an after-school credit recovery program where the students are receiving 30 hours of instructional time and another 30 hours of self-study. This program has its own cycle of evaluation. We needed to make sure that the students earn the missed credits, that they have recovered everything, and they are provided also with the support they needed. And that's why we had the sessions, the live sessions, the explanation for them. And this will support our high school graduates fine at the end. I would like to end this presentation with the following quote. All progress takes place outside the comfort zone. I believe that all teachers around the world, not even in the UAE, when this pandemic started, we all stepped outside our comfort zone. We were all used to go to our classroom, write on our board, talk to our students, move around the class, sit next to them, share with them, look at their facial expressions and understand whether everything is fine or not, argue with them, have our debates, have our engagement, our just normal questions about their well-being. We all miss having to sit inside a classroom, and we all stepped outside our comfort zone, regardless of whether we were prepared or not prepared for this program or for this emergency plan or for this solution, whatever you want to call it. We still have to deal with lots. Yet we embraced remote learning. We stepped up to the plate, and hats off to all teachers around the world for the amazing work they are doing in order to ensure that the students' learning is not interrupted. Yes, I do believe that all teachers are frontline fighters. They are doing their best. Their learning hours, or their working hours, were extended beyond the actual learning day and night, responding, texting, answering, reflecting. And we don't know if it's right. We don't know if what we're doing is right or wrong. We have no idea, but yet we are doing it. We are doing what we believe should be done, and we did not stop our message. We wanted to ensure that the learning is not interrupted, and we never know. We are learning from this process. We are getting something new every day, and who knows, maybe this will turn out to be the new normal. We never know. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I know it feels weird since I feel that I'm talking to the computer. I now will turn to the Q&A session.
Thank you so much, Zainab, for this informative and detailed presentation. Really appreciate it. Since we are short on time, we will now start with the Q&A section of this webinar. In the registration forms that you all filled out prior to this webinar, many of you have submitted questions to Zainab that I will post to her. And I will also try and include some of the live questions that I can see are being posted here on the right-hand side. So Zainab, if I could please just ask you for short answers since we're short on time, but let's start with the first question. Improvements on the horizon. Have you seen a difference in shy kids, hyperactive kids, highly creative kids? Are they suddenly doing better with remote learning than they were doing in the physical classroom?
Well, yes, we have seen like some changes in the learning attitude, and I believe middle school boys, to be specific, are a very good example of how the distance learning helped them control their learning attitude or sharpen their learning attitude, because they're no longer busy talking to a friend, being poked by a friend, focusing on something in. No, they are in their room, they are focusing on the screen, and we've seen changes even in their results. They have improved, they are providing better work. So I feel like, yes, some kids are really thriving in this learning, and especially the hyperactive ones, because they were usually busy moving around the class, they're not focusing, but now they feel that they are this is the time of the day where they are focusing with the teacher, talking, and like even other kids who usually are shy and they are hesitant to reply or to raise their hands, they can find the chat option very, very encouraging. They can share their answers without feeling this pressure of sharing their voice.
Thank you. We got a lot of questions regarding early years. How can assessment be best applied for early year students? Shall early years assessment be viewed differently? A lot of concerns regarding children struggling with being attentive and focused during distance learning. What are your thoughts, please?
Well, for early years, I do understand the fact that it has to be different. We're talking about assessments that should be developmentally appropriate. So if I'm talking about students, I'll share quickly what we have implemented for early years. We worked on the DRDP. It's the Desired Results Developmental Profile. So it focuses on certain domains, such as, for example, self-regulation, social and emotional learning, language and literacy, cognition in math and science. We focused on skills, and we made sure that the most assessed work was the work done in the live session when they are participating, the questioning, the dialogue happening between the teacher and the kids. And we do understand that some kids, especially at this age, might be not encouraged or cannot be controlled all the time to sit in front of a screen. They want to move around. So for these kids, we initiated like on the class dojo, sort of a reward system. So that like you get the class dojo point if you are attending, if you are participating. We have like certificates of perfect attendance for certain classes, so they encourage themselves to all go. So it's mainly focusing on these skills, and if, I don't know if this is going to happen, but if this goes on the long run and this gets extended, I feel like for early years, teachers can, at the very beginning, have like a week of assessments where teachers sit with students on one-to-one basis and have the virtual one-to-one questioning, establish a baseline for each student based on these questioning, and then accordingly monitor their progress in later assessment cycles.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to some of the live questions here. I see there's somebody asking, I think the distance learning is teaching us to use more digital ways to assess students. But how do we cater to students who do not have access to laptops or tabs, keeping in mind that we need to ensure that the assessments are secure and safe? Do you have any thoughts on that?
As a school, we took care of this problem. We did have some parents who communicated with us regarding the lack of equipment, or for example, there are 5 kids at home and there are only 2 laptops available. So what we did as a school, we provided them with devices from our side. We did not leave any child behind. All of our kids have now access to either a laptop or a tablet or an iPad. We initially had our upper elementary and middle school on school devices anyways, but for the other group of students who did not have school devices and did not have personal devices, we provided them with such devices. We did not want to leave these kids not having access to everything we are providing just because they lack a device. And even with the fact that we are using Google Classroom, the Google Classroom has even a mobile app, and I don't think there's anyone who cannot have access to a mobile, even if it's not his personal mobile, his parents' mobile. The app is very user-friendly. It's available on Android and iOS systems, so the kids did have access even from their phones. If they want to access anything, it's from the phone.
Thank you so much, Zainab. I know we're short on time, so I guess we have to end the Q&A session here, not to take more of people's time. So I just hand over the word to Nada now. Thank you so much, Zainab.
Thank you, Zainab, and thank you, Magnus. Heartfelt thanks to you, Zainab, for that fantastic presentation. We hope that it has inspired our audience with maybe new ideas, or that you've been able to take a few takeaways. I'm just going to end shortly, but before you go, and I do understand, I know we've gone a little bit over time, but for those that need to go, you're welcome to go. However, for those that can spare another 5 minutes just to share some feedback on this webinar, that would be absolutely fantastic. So you'll see on menti.com, go back there is a question there that asks you how satisfied were you with the structure, the content, and the preparedness of the presenter today. So I'll just give you about 30 seconds to respond to that question, please. So today we had 160 people on the call today. And Zainab, I know you can't hear them, but I'm sure they're all clapping for you at the moment for sharing your insights and for being very honest about your school's journey. Okay. Okay, we'll just move on to the next question. You will see what I enjoyed most about the webinar today, and I'll bring this one up on the screen for you to see as well. We've been very grateful for the many educators that have come forward to want to present and share what they're doing at their schools. So if anyone else like Zainab would like to be a presenter on these What Works X webinars, please feel free to write into us, feel free to write to us, and Maya will put the email address in the chat feature. So thank you, Maya. So do feel free to write to us, and we can talk about having you present in the coming few weeks. So some of the comments that are coming through, the sincerity and honesty of the speaker, and of course the new ideas. Sample of the work was really good. Summative assessments, especially ideas around the standard deviation process that Zainab has developed. How teachers can make their assessment valid. The Q&A response for hyperactive students was very accurate. Insightful ideas regarding assessment practices. So a lot of learning took place today, and thank you very much for sharing those takeaways that a lot of you received from Zainab's presentation. You know, none of us planned for COVID-19, and we know it has been a struggle for many, but you know, every time I participate and help facilitate these sessions, I really feel that there has been a lot of good that has come out of this as well. The big things like the virus is something we cannot control, but it's those little things that we can control, and all those little things add up. And when you see sharing and coming together on a platform like this is one of the small things that we can, you know, sit back and reflect and say, that felt really good. And there are other people like me that are struggling, or that are sharing, or that are growing from this experience. So the assessment policy of the smaller kids was very useful. The session was useful and informative. The Padlet bit, the credibility, and reflections on the assessments. Thank you so much to everyone. We'll just move on now to the next question. So what will be the first thing you plan to do to improve assessing the progress students are making during distance learning? After seeing this webinar, do you feel confident that your school is doing things just fine and you have no plans to change your approach? Investigate different progress tracking platforms, or engage students more in reflecting upon and assessing their work, prioritize effective monitoring and impact of current practice, or using a triangulation approach when making decisions about student progress. So on the one hand, you know, I think a lot of teachers were pleased. I wouldn't really use that word. I can't think of another word at the moment, that this has happened towards the end of the academic year. So a lot of teachers already know a lot about their students and where they are at with their learning and their engagement. So they've already, as Zainab mentioned, you already have a lot of data around your students. So it's made it a little bit easier in terms of assessing the progress students are making. So I can see most people are going to look at doing different things, investigating different ways, different approaches. Excellent, thank you so much for that. And just in relation to that, and just to get a bit more detail from you, what other ways or what ways do you plan to improve assessing student progress over the coming few weeks until the end of the academic year? This is just an opportunity for you to express new ideas. Maybe you've been inspired by what Zainab had to say. Are there any other ways or things that you'll be implementing? Padlets, quizzes. Yes, the trouble, I think, and I see this with my own children, is keeping the kids engaged in their learning. It can get sometimes a bit monotonous watching videos and doing the same thing every day, but trying to engage the students in engaging platforms such as the Padlet, quizzes, even Menti, the platform I'm using at the moment. A lot of schools have also taken on this platform and use that to engage their students. And this Menti is anonymous, so we don't know who's saying what, but it has, or I found it a great way to engage with an audience. Google Forms, one-on-one sessions. Just give you a few more minutes on that one. Okay, thank you so much everyone for your comments there. Okay, and just finally, I think you can see that slide. Just wanted to bring your attention to the KHD In This Together website. The web address is there on your screen, and basically this is a repository of free resources that have been provided both locally and internationally. There are resources to support your students, parents, teachers in terms of well-being, in terms of academic resources. A lot of tech tools have been made available for free. So please do visit that website and have a look at all those fantastic offerings the international community have provided. You'll also find on this website all the previously recorded webinars that have been delivered on the What Works X platform, and you'll also see upcoming webinars as well as a lot of international webinars on topics such as education policy during distance learning, which is on how to prepare for school return, student well-being, teacher well-being. So you'll find a lot of fantastic resources there for you to have a look at. And finally, I'd like to leave you with this cartoon that I came across today. And I know for a lot of us parents, teachers, I think this kind of resonates with all of us. I can't remember, do I work at home or do I live at work? Particularly a lot of us that do have children and our teachers. I know it's an incredibly hard time to find that balance, but now with the Ramadan and the Eid coming up over the next few days, I really do hope you have the opportunity to take a break from your work life and relax and spend time with your family, and wishing you all a Ramadan Mubarak, wishing you a blessed Ramadan and one that will inspire you with courage and strength to help you overcome the challenges we have at the moment. So I'll just come back on the screen to wish you a goodbye. So from my home to yours, Eid Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem, and do take care of yourselves, do take a break, and thank you so much to everybody. We'll be back with these What Works X webinars, not next week, but the week after, and we will resume these webinars on Monday and Thursday, and look forward to seeing you all back again with us. Do take care, and Eid Mubarak. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.